Hello, entrepreneurs. My name is Bimal Shah. I'm on a mission to make pioneers out of entrepreneurs by helping you achieve your 3 year goal in 1 year that's tied to your 25-year vision and 5 year moonshot. I do it through weekly sprints and 90-day leaps. This is the Pioneers Academy podcast, and I'm on a mission to make a million pioneers. And I thought this podcast channel will help you achieve your 3 year goal and jump to the next level. I'm going to be showing lots of training and lots of great episodes, so join on this podcast and get all the training and resources you need to achieve your 3 year goal in 1 year and make yourself a pioneer. I wrote 13 books, Becoming a Pioneer, and you can get all those 13 books on Amazon. We're going to give away to every listener who listens on this podcast a $100 Amazon gift card so you can get all the books and learn how to become a pioneer.
Welcome to the Pioneers Academy podcast, where we make pioneers out of entrepreneurs. I'm your host, April, and today's conversation is all about turning uncertainty into opportunity. We're diving into a timely and essential topic for every business owner: actions during a government shutdown. And when the unexpected happens, like delays, contract holds, or cash flow interruptions, it can feel like your business is on pause. But the truth is, it's also a chance to reset, refocus, and find new opportunities for growth. And joining me today is Bimal Shah, a business growth strategist, author of the Pioneers book series, and the creator of the Pioneers platform. He's helped countless entrepreneurs take quantum leaps in their business by focusing on strategy, system, and mindset. Bimal, it's always such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me here. And today is a very important topic that we're going to discuss. We're all going through this, everybody's concerned and facing this government shutdown. So, this would be a very timely information and insights that what really happens and how they can do things, what actions they can take. So, really interested in, diving into this.
Perfectly said. And I think our listeners are going to walk away with some really practical steps today. So let's dive right in, Bimal. So, with your Quantum 90-day leap, it's one of your signature frameworks. So, how can entrepreneurs use it to reassess priorities and protect their businesses when a government shutdown occurs?
So let's first understand what really happens during government shutdown, because everybody, when they heard the word government shutdown, meaning like everything is shut down, but not everything gets shut down. There are things that are stay open and things that you can do and things that will work and continue to work. So what really you can't do, that is the thing that, yeah, it's very important to understand. So one thing, you can't expect is to get signed contracts. So if you have sent federal contracts or government contracts or bids or anything that you've sent across, and you're waiting for the government authorities or employees to sign and return those back, there could be delayed or those contracts may not happen. So that is something, that can happen. The second thing that can happen is, if you have something like regulatory approval. So if you're like a pharmacist or a company or FDA, or you're, doing something where you're waiting on an approval from someone or an institution, that may be delayed, and that could be possibly that is something that can get impacted. Now, the third thing, like if you're doing any travel, okay? So when you're traveling, things that, let's say you may require a visa or you may require this, your flights could be delayed or things like that. So travel does get impacted, but there are a lot of TSA employees and employees that are working on the airport without pay, or they're going to collect, they're working regardless. So that may or may not be severely impacted, but there many airports, there is a substantial impact. Then parks, if you look at, national parks and other things, they are definitely closed. And then IRS, if you're waiting on something that, physically they have to do something or service that you're waiting on, that could be delayed. But the online aspects of each of these, are open. So the portals, so, this is a time for you to understand what can you do online. So all of these government platforms like the SBA. So if you're waiting on an SBA loan or you send something for an SBA loan, there could be a delay on response from the SBA loan officer or things like that. But the SBA portal itself is already open because it's an online portal. It's built through the machine and software. So the software is not shut down. The people that could be working behind the scenes, they may not be available, but the software itself is there. So familiarizing with all the online platforms and everything that you can do online, this is a great opportunity for you too. So for example, if you are working on an SBA loan, there's so many things you can do online, so many things you can upload, start the process, do the work. So if you are already having a pending application, this is a time for you to familiarize, what can you do online. And then these are things that could cost and things like that could go up. There could be rising loan costs or things like that. If you are waiting on a decision, the decision might come back, with an increased cost than what you had expected. So this is a time, where people have to understand this is what actually happens. Now, does your business really get impacted by some of the things that I discussed here? If it doesn't, then you go about doing your thing and doing your business as normally as you would. But if it does, then you want to reassess. And it's also, even if it doesn't, it's a great time for you to reassess and rethink. And that's why the quantum 90-day leap structure is designed in such a way that it helps you think and look back and assess and look forward. So if you think about, what is a leap? Why, if you think about, you cannot leap high or you cannot leap forward standing up. So if you think about, April, wherever you're standing or wherever you're sitting, if you wanted to jump or leap, there's not too high you can go or too far. In order to go far, you would have to run backwards, 20, 30 feet or even further and come up to a strength and speed to jump further, right? So, which also means this leaps when you're doing, you're looking back. Okay. You're looking back further, you're going deep. And when I say back, meaning you're looking deep, you're looking deep into your business, you're looking in depth and all the aspects, and you're evaluating and assessing what really is going to make a transformation. And this way, you can reassess. And that's why the Quantum 90-day leap, the questions are asked and structured in such a way that you actually build the leap that will actually make you leap. And this is a great time to do that. And then it's also, cash flow is the number one thing to look at these times. Because if your business, if you're waiting on government contracts or your business was dependent and, you're now have never explored, private contracts, commercial contracts, or other businesses or other customers that are not dependent on customers and they are decision makers, which you could do about business normally, it's time to reassess, other avenues as well. And, 5 keywords, during the pandemic, a lot of things were shut down. And there are five key things that helped me and my business, grow even during the pandemic. And these are 5 words I would share was adapt, pivot, discover, change, and improve. So these things, adapt, pivot, discover, change, and improve. Like adapt to the situation, pivot. What can you pivot? What can you discover that's something new that you never knew before? What can you change and what can you improve? So these are things that the quantum leap would definitely help. And there's also a great episode on the 3 bucket cash flow system that would work extremely well, in times if you're impacted and you have to reassess the cash flow, build up the reserves, manage your cash flow better. The 3 bucket system is a gold mine. So go back and listen to the episode. We'll put the show notes in the link to that 3 bucket system, and you'll also the link to the quantum 90-day leap in the show notes below.
Yes, exactly, Bimal. And that makes total sense. Like, when everything feels unpredictable, I think this structure or having a 90-day game plan gives you focus and something to work towards. And it keeps things moving forward instead of getting stuck. So I like that example of yours also. Thanks so much for that. And now you've mentioned a while ago that one of the affected aspect is managing cash flow. So, what can business owners do to keep their finances stable and their reserves protected?
So one of the things, for cash flow, mentioned that, look at customers. If you're dependent on government contracts and you're dependent on government funding coming through to for your business, now is the time to see also which are other customers that you can serve. And so I have a link in the show notes below, 5-star prospects, bit.ly forward slash 5-star prospect, allows you to build your ideal dream come true prospect. And think about who your this prospect is. Once you build it, we can do through our database research and comprehensive team research that does it. We can actually build your list of ideal dream come true customers and prospects that you target. So that is one thing that can help you improve your cash flow. The second is the 3 bucket cash flow system that I mentioned. And the third is, if you have been dependent on government loans or SBA loans, now is the time to also evaluate outside alternative lending services. There are so many different types of lending providers. And I have a link in the show note below called Limitless Funding, where you can access limitless funding, and based on the questions you answer you will be put in touch with the right person. So that is something that you want to access, and there's so many different types of funding also available. So depending on what your needs are, what your goals are, this may be a time to look outside the box while thinking inside the box. And so that is where you put some boundaries on your thinking, and some things that these are principles that I stick to, and I will not go outside these principles, but I look for opportunities where I haven't been looking with these principles in mind. And that is something, click on the show notes below. That is something you can expect. And if you're waiting on permitting or licensing or things like that, there are things you can do that can speed up the process internally. Because if you see things that in permitting, most of the times, they come back, oh, they need this or they need that or they need this or this is not. You can look back at all the things that you have filed and improve your processes in the company, improve your SOPs, improve how you do things, and expedite internally. So do things that you control internally, expedite internally. And when you work on the business gets better. So this is a time to work on the business, use the Quantum 90-day leap tool. It is an excellent tool to, help you work on the business. And always, sign up for all these credit monitoring services, because this is important. If your cash flow is going to be impacted and you have to adjust the payments or structure or how you do things, sign up for a lot of free credit monitoring service, including Dun and Bradstreet and all of these other things that do for businesses. You can do that too. And then also at the same time, what you want to do is make sure you assign specific tasks to specific team members during this time, and look at job descriptions, what you have been doing in your team. And this may be a time for you to reassess how everybody works in the company, and also look at, okay, because this is not the first government shutdown that has happened. you know we have had shutdowns before too, but this one is unique, it's different. Nothing is really happening. There's two very divided political parties. And so, uh, what can you do? That's the question you want to ask yourself. What's in your control? And this is a great time to look at a deeper insight in your business.
Well said, Bimal. Keeping a close eye on cash reserves and being ready to adjust quickly is so important. Yeah, I would also consider signing up for a business line of credit if I myself would experience the same thing. So thank you about that. And now, many businesses rely heavily on government contracts or funding. What's your advice for entrepreneurs looking to diversify income when those sources pause?
So this is where you look at companies, private companies, and this is why the I mentioned earlier the 5-star prospect. You know, Ask a simple question to yourself and on a blank piece of paper. So take a blank piece of paper, white paper, yellow pad, whatever, whatever is working, ask and name your dream come true prospect. Give a name. So let's say Jerry or Michael or Isabella, whatever, just give a name. And on top of that page, ask that question, who is Jerry? That's it. And write a full page essay on that. Don't think, what you have to write. Just keep on writing. Whatever comes to your mind. Jerry is this, Jerry is that, Jerry is married, Jerry lives in this home, he has this, he runs a business, he has 10 employees, he's making $1 million. Whatever comes to your mind, just write it. Take that whole description of your dream come true, Jerry, and now say, these are the people I want to work with. You can put that and upload it on the link bit.ly 5-star prospects, and we'll build you a list of those Jerrys, and that's how you can start and pivot. As simple as that. Won't take much effort, and you can start and say, okay, this is how I can pivot if I want to and explore other avenues. Now, the same thing is look into your products and services, because there may be things you can improve on your products and service offerings that you can, so previously government contracts usually are bigger or this, or they require many things, and but now you could dissect and build it into different things that you could do quicker sales, so that will help you build cash flow easy. And look at the time. What I'll give you a quick example, of how pivot happened in during the pandemic. Instacart, if you're familiar with, so started during the pandemic. So a lot of people needed groceries, but they couldn't go grocery shopping because of the pandemic. And at the same time, they were tight on budget. So they said, I can't buy everything from the same grocery store. I may have to buy this from here, and it can't go and I can't get it. So Instacart was founded and by Apurva Mehta, and he built the whole system where a single person will go to 5, 6 different grocery stores and get specific items from each place and bring it to your door. It became a $1 billion company. This is an example of pivot, looking at to the needs of the client. So if you're trying to diversify your customer base and you're trying to shift, you want to see what are their current needs that I can satisfy. And the second question is, how long will these needs last, even if the shutdown is over, even if this is over? Will this continue 10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, 20 years down? And if that continuity is there, you have a long-term business revenue model that you can take and run with it. So that is, kind of things that entrepreneurs can do and take it from there.
Exactly, Bimal. That's another key strategy that they can do to open up a new revenue streams and reduce reliance on government contracts. So thank you for that, suggesting exploring and expanding avenues to different markets and improving existing products or services. So thank you about that. Now let's talk about partnership or relationship, because that's where a lot of business pressure shows up during uncertainty. What proactive steps can entrepreneurs take with vendors, lenders, or partners to manage liabilities?
So the very first thing, everybody, wants to get paid and everybody wants money. And if your situation is such, they're willing to talk in times like this. So this is the time to negotiate and negotiate for the long haul as well. I can tell you a story when, the pandemic happened and there's a client of mine and the landlord was going to increase the rent payment by substantial amount. And and the client was saying, well, I may have to move. I may just have to quit and find another space, but he couldn't find another space, had a similar rent even after the increase. So we said, this is a great time to renegotiate and negotiate for the long haul. And we were able to negotiate, a drop of 35% in the rent than what he was paying instead of an increase. And that rent good for at least 4 years. So uh, this is the time to negotiate with your vendors, negotiate with your lenders, go back to them and see, talk to them. And if your cash flow is tight, show your statement, show your bank statements, be open and truthful and authentic and say this is what it is. I there's nothing I can do except this. So if you work with me, I'll work with you. So whatever tactics you want to use, this is a great time for you to negotiate. With partnerships, it's a great time to look at the agreements and say, how can we strengthen our partnership and resources, and what can we bring to the table? Each partner has specific, things that they bring to the table. And this is the time to sit down and reassess and think. And if you have to amend certain agreements, you amend certain agreements. So they also work in the long haul.
That's so true, Bimal. And when you build genuine partnership instead of transactional relationship, I believe that those connections really show their value in the challenging times like this. So now, when shutdowns stretch on, teams can feel anxious or demotivated. How can leaders help their people stay engaged and focused?
So this is the time when you go back to your team and we build up incentives and challenges. So you're in challenging times, and everybody loves a challenge. And if we can say, okay, if we can accomplish this challenge and we can do better. I can tell you a story about Musk, when all the car companies, there was a problem with the computer chips, and there was no used cars that were being sold, or new cars that were being sold, and the prices were high and the cars were not selling. At that time, Tesla decided to build its own chips. It was a big challenge for them and their team to say, instead of relying on outside forces, can we do something internally? And they were successful to overcome that challenge, and they built it, and they had the best sales in that quarter when everybody else was going down. So this is a time for you to openly throw a challenge and talk to your team, revise their job description, do everything, and even throw incentives, because what your team is thinking, oh, shut down, he's going to come back, and you discuss, we're going to do pay cuts, or we're going to lose, there's going to be cutbacks. That's what they're expecting. The least thing they're expecting is an incentive. So at this time, by throwing in a challenge and a result-based incentive, you can completely turn around and change the situation.
Well said, Bimal, because leaders can keep teams motivated by, like, staying transparent, offering support, and even celebrating small wins to maintain focus and to uplift the morale of each individual. So thank you about that. Now, let's go with this. For those with ongoing projects or government back loans, delays can be a big issue. So how can they protect their progress?
So it's very important, that they can protect their progress by documentation and communication. These are two key things. If you document everything and you talk, which is why there are platforms for communication, because, verbal communication can be lost, forgotten, or misinterpreted. And it could be he said, she said, you said, I said, but, there are platforms that allow you to freely communicate, so you minimize your verbal communication and you have documented communication. So both document and communication can happen through platforms like Teams, Slack, Workspace, Monday. These are many different types of platforms that you can use. Salesforce, all kinds of platforms. So utilize those platforms and make sure you document and communicate everything. And also take the time to build complete procedures, processes, and what to do in the event of government shutdown. Understand government shutdown, what really shuts down. Not everything shuts down. There's a lot of government things that are online today because of the world we live in, because of everything that's been built, because of the softwares that have been built, because of all the things that have happened. There are many things that can be done without the involvement, of people and support that you need. And learning to familiarize with those aspects can help you, in these things, and say, okay, I can take care of these, I can take care of this. I don't need to be speaking to someone or rely on a response from someone or send an email and wait for a response. I can just explore and learn and do this on my own without having to do anything. So this is a great time to explore all those resources and document and communicate.
That's excellent, Bimal. And it's such a simple step, but most people skip it until it's too late. So, reminding everyone listening right now to document, to avoid that kind of issue. So, now, Bimal, how is it important for the businesses to document the overall impact of a shutdown on their operations?
So one thing you can do is, every platform allows you to communicate freely, right? So when you're communicating, what I also do is I have like an SOP that you're building on the side as part of the communication that goes back and forth. So you're kind of doing two things. You're improving a process and you're also communicating and getting feedback and improving and putting the feedback and improvement on an improved process. So or take your existing SOP and see where it needs improvement. And SOP stands for Standard Operating Procedure. So that is something that, when you're documenting, you're not only just documenting, you're improving your how you operate, and you're going towards the step of operational excellence, building towards self-managing company. Self-managing company, people are absolutely essential when, hiring the right people in the right seats. But more important is also the right processes. You need the right processes in your company, the ones that are very effective and work and deliver great results. And this is where you can do simultaneously when you're getting feedback. Because what happens is, every time the hardest part is getting started. So if you have all these things and then you say, well, I will now gather all this info and work, and then something else come and something is not happening. But if you're doing simultaneously, as soon as you're getting feedback, you're putting the information, it's not taking up that much time, few minutes here and there, already done, and it's already work in progress. So that is something you can do. And a lot of the platforms allow you to do this side by side.
Great mindset, Bimal. And thank you for reminding each one of us now. And so, looking ahead, what can businesses do long term to reduce the impact of future shutdowns or disruptions?
People, strategy, execution, and cash flow. So, make sure you have the right people in the right seats doing the right things to get the right results for the right pay. Make sure you have the right strategies and systems, structures, processes in place. Make sure you have the proper execution, because the execution is, has to be simply who does what by when. So, you think about, how is your execution seamless, and is your execution happening? Because if you have a great strategy but there's no execution, it doesn't work. And cash flow is the most important thing. It's the, when you have cash flow, you feel like a king. When you don't, it feels like heaven. It feels like hell, sorry. So so heaven and hell is in your business is cash flow. If you have great cash flow, it's heaven. If it's not, it's hell. So cash flow, cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. And look at expenses. Take out all the unnecessary expenses. If it's not working for you and not giving you results, eliminate it, change it, improve it, whatever you need to do. Think about all the expenses. You to improve your bottom line. Your bottom line, if you look the between your gross, line in your P&L statement and your bottom line, are all these other expenses. So to improve your bottom line, you don't have to always focus on the top line or sales. You can focus on your expenses and double or triple your profits even with the same sales. So the very first thing, is how can I improve my profits without having to make more money or sell more? If I sold the same amount of things or same amount of revenues, if I had the same revenues every year, can I improve my net profits? What can I do to improve my net profit? So focusing on the expenses, focusing on that helps you really hone in and say, okay, I can be doing the same business next year. And if during the shutdown I'm doing, I can look at reducing these expenses and double or triple my profits.
So true, Bimal. And I know that preparation really is a power. And if you have the great system with you and the great people behind, I think the smoother you'll navigate whatever comes next to you. So thank you for that. Now, you've written 13 books under the Pioneers book series. So, we're just curious, which ones would you recommend for our listeners today who wanted to learn more about building resilience and growth, and even related to this episode today?
So one of the things is, that even in my own, the grants are still working great. So people think that the first thing, when shutdowns happen, the grants will be eliminated or this won't work. And that is not true. The grants still happen. They're still working great and people are still getting grants. So you click on the link bit.ly/grants now and you'll be able to go there. And all of these things are included. A lot of the books, from books 1 through 13, there's always something on the grants that you have, so you can take the Amazon gift card. We're giving $100 Amazon gift card that you can take and get all the books in the series. So take that gift card of $100 and get all the books in the series. And also, books, if you're looking for the 90-day leap, books 6 through 13, are really built on, improving resilience, looking outside the box, rethinking, reassess. So all those series in the second half is, really help you. And the first half is the structure and the framework for it. So the second half is the strategy and the execution, the cash flow, and all of that to making it happen.
Fantastic. And those sounds like books every business owner should have, Bimal. And thank you so much for that $100 Amazon uh gift card. It's a great incentives that you're literally rewarding people for investing in their growth, and I love that. And once again, thank you so much for sharing your insights today. You've given our listeners practical and inspiring ways to stay proactive, positive, and profitable even when times are uncertain. So thank you so much, Bimal.
Thank you very much for having me and become a pioneer. Achieve your 3-year goal in 1 year and become a pioneer. Hello, pioneers and entrepreneurs. My name is Bimal Shah. I'm on a mission to make pioneers out of entrepreneurs by helping you achieve your 3-year goal in 1 year that is tied to your 25-year vision and 5-year moonshot. I do it through 90-day leaps and weekly sprints and through my own proprietary 4-leap system. I've also written 13 books, the Becoming a Pioneer series. I've founded the Pioneers Academy, the Pioneers platform, and several resources that help you on several different platforms: the Thrive platform, Transform platform, and Transcend platform. So these are resources and tools that I built for you to double your business in a year and scale exponentially and become the only one in your business.